Welcome to the 49-Yard Dash Podcast, the podcast on your San Francisco 49ers, hosted by myself, Stephen Ellis, and joined now and weekly by my good friend, Josh LeVon. We're going to talk about quarterback news today, game-by-game predictions today, division winners. We're breaking it all down today because the season is starting, and for us, it's Friday night right now. Season's starting in 2 days' time for us, this Sunday at noon for us, and we're going to break it down. It's all football from here. We had our intro episode. It was about us. Hey, that doesn't matter. It's all football now, right? But to begin, I got to ask, Josh, how's it going, my man?
Aside from the rare case of leprosy I'm combating, just got out of the ICU. But other than that, doing great. Hopped up on a bunch of X-Lac and Benadryl, but we're going to pull through, buddy. We're going to pull through.
You're an extraordinary creature, man.
Hey, man, just a real barnyard animal. But as they say on TikTok, I'm a different breed. We're going to succeed, and we're going to power through this episode, right?
So just built
ready to get it. Hey, here to represent in my Michigan hoodie. Obviously 49ers hat. This is a 49ers part 49-year 49ers podcast. The leprosy's coming through. Here to support Ambry Thomas and of course his mission of colitis. So, obviously we're just two brothers in battle combating these rare diseases. So, we're here to show up and show out, right?
Yeah, we spent too much time on that.
Yeah, we sure did. But hey, you know what? That's what you're here for.
I'm trying to squeeze in my 49ers logo, but I kind of have to poke my chest out to get it there. But all right, man, let's get into it. Yeah, true. All right, so as mentioned at the beginning, the outset, we're going to talk some quarterback stuff. So as you know, Jimmy Garoppolo was officially named the starter. And, Trey was dealing with some finger issues as well and not throwing at practice for a few days. But Jimmy G starting the year off, QB1, once again. I want your thoughts on it. And first of all, being a Trey guy, what does Jimmy do for you that Trey doesn't do for you?
Give me a lot of anxiety. Is that an appropriate answer?
Indeed it is.
No, but in seriousness, Jimmy, you and I have talked about this ad nauseum, either off mic before this show or just in passing. Jimmy is a game manager, and I hate that title, game manager. Every quarterback's a game manager, right? Tom Brady's a game manager. He's managing the game for Bruce Arians. He managed it for Josh McDaniels. But Jimmy Garoppolo is managing it for Kyle Shanahan. But that's really exactly what he is. As much as I hate that title, that's Jimmy Garoppolo, right?
Yeah.
He's going to do what Kyle asked him to do. Can he do it well? Well, hey, that's for you to decide. Obviously, he's got accuracy issues. He doesn't push the ball downfield to the point where he's taking advantage of guys like Brandon Ayuk, potential impact guys like Trent Sherfield. You got guys in the run game now. Mostert, can he line up in the slot? Can he even stretch the field in pass games? What can Elijah Mitchell do? What can all these guys do in the passing game? Jimmy's not going to be able to take advantage of that, even with Kittle down the field. He's much more of a check down guy. I know you hate this comparison. To me, he's kind of like a better Teddy Bridgewater almost. He's not really pushing that ball down the field like an elite quarterback would do, or even above average quarterback would do. But at the same point, he is going to do what Kyle asked him to do. As much as I kind of crapped on Jimmy there, he is going to do what Kyle asked him to do, and he's going to do it well enough to keep his job, at least right out the gate, right? Trey is a rookie. Is Kyle going to put all that on him? No. Can you expect Trey to deliver the same results that Jimmy's going to give you out the gate, with, these check downs, these 5-yard shorts, these dig routes and things, these kind of intermediate passing levels. Can you expect Trey to do that and deliver it the same way that Jimmy's doing it and has done it over his career? Probably not. And I think that's why you're going to see Jimmy at least start, right out the gate. He's going to do these simple things that Kyle's going to ask him to do. It's a look with me offense, similar to what you see in college football nowadays, even perennial powers like Notre Dame, USC, Texas, Ohio State, Michigan. They're all doing these look with me offenses, whereas we're not huddling anymore. We're looking at the sideline. for our reads, right? We might huddle for the play, but we're not necessarily reading the guy at the line of scrimmage. We're looking at the sideline to determine our read. And Jimmy Garoppolo has done a great job with that. And I think that's why you're seeing him start week 1, right? He's got a familiarity with the playbook. You're going to see him do what Kyle Shanahan asked him to do. So there's some level of trust there. I know you're more of a Jimmy guy than me, right? Obviously we're both Trey guys. We are a Trey area podcast, unofficially, officially, right? But that comparison I just made to Bridgewater, I can see you grimacing. I know we talked about it off air. I know how you feel about it. But what do you think Jimmy can do for this offense compared to what Trey, from week 1? Right.
In my opinion, not that necessarily Trey would have started, but I think a huge factor in Jimmy Garoppolo starting is the fact that, and we'll go over this in more detail, but I just looking at the schedule, week 3, 4, 5, they have Packers, Seahawks, Cardinals.
Yeah, true.
And I just think Green Bay, Seattle, in Arizona, those are the things that Jimmy Garoppolo is at least really familiar with. He's played in a Super Bowl. So he's a lot more
Didn't play well.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. No, but he's played there. He's used to big games, and he's played all these division rivals many times. Trey Lance, as much as I love the kid, I think he's going to be a great player, has played in North Dakota. So I think it would be a rough stretch, or a tough stretch, I should say, at least starting off. Lions and Eagles is a good start, but then following it up with Green Bay, Seattle, and in Arizona.
Yeah.
I understand Shanahan wanting the veteran there. I do. But, coming back to that question, what does Jimmy do that Trey doesn't do? Outside of that, I'm not sure. Me and you were both, anybody who heard our first episode, we still talked about the quarterback competition, and we both went into more detail about why we think Trey Lance should start. And essentially, we think he brings different variables of offense that Jimmy Garoppolo can't.
Yeah.
And I still agree with that. But, I'm a little higher on Jimmy Garoppolo than you are, as we know. I like him. And I think it could be really interesting in terms of, it wouldn't surprise me. And I'm not necessarily going to go out and predict it, but it just wouldn't surprise me if Garoppolo came out this year having a poor man's Aaron Rodgers-like deal where Green Bay drafts, no, not that he's going to be an MVP candidate or anything close to it, but just career year due to the team drafting a quarterback and basically ticking him off. Just playing mad and playing his best ball of his career.
Sure. Well, and hey, here's the problem with that. One guy's Aaron Rodgers, the other guy's Jimmy Garoppolo, right? Aaron Rodgers' NFC Championship game was carrying his team. Jimmy Garoppolo barely, I'm not going to pull up the stats, and hey, our 20 viewers can correct me if I'm wrong. It's probably me and you listening to this. But hey, most of those yards were Raheem Mostert and the rest of the running back carousel. I can remember me and you watched that game together. Missing Kittle high in that game. Hey, like I said, one of those guys is Aaron Rodgers, the other guy is Jimmy Garoppolo. Jimmy Garoppolo pissed off. I'm not sure it's the same kind of guy as Aaron Rodgers, right?
He's not. No,
right? Yeah, no, and hey, I get where you're coming from. He's gonna have a chip on his shoulder. I've got a chip on my shoulder. I was benched in a tournament team. I was a man in a tournament team. Did that mean I showed up? No, I averaged 6 points a game. And I feel like that kind of translates to Jimmy Garoppolo. He might show up ticked off the way I did for, having a guy coming up behind him. But does that mean it's going to translate? I don't know. That's one of those things. He can be as ticked as he wants, but if he's kind of hit a ceiling, how much better is he going to play angry? I don't. No.
I understand what you mean. And again, that's
sure.
that's why I worded it a very poor man's version of that.
Fair assessment.
Aaron Rodgers ticked off was 48 touchdowns and 5 picks and an MVP. I think Garoppolo ticked off is his best year, but that being top 14 quarterback-ish.
Yeah, ticked off Jimmy Garoppolo is being able to throw for more than 100 yards in a playoff game and not having
That's true.
yeah, the
That's
running game,
true.
right? That's what we're looking for here. Is a guy who can actually be depended on to deliver when it counts. Not
Yeah,
missing a wide receiver in the Super Bowl. That's what we're looking for.
that was painful. No doubt about it. That was painful.
Yeah.
That was
Yeah, no, and hey, I get where you're coming from. Obviously, you and I go back and forth on this. And for the viewers, whoever you may be, um, I personally feel as though Jimmy Garoppolo is a slightly better version of Teddy Bridgewater. I know people hate that. Teddy's a fine quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo is a fine quarterback. Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to go out and win you a game. Teddy Bridgewater is not going to go out and win you a game. For them to win a Super Bowl, either one of these guys, we saw it in the 2019 season when we went to the Super Bowl, or I guess, unbiasedly when the 49ers went to the Super Bowl. It had to be a perfect scenario for these guys to potentially win a championship, right? And that's kind of the bracket I put Jimmy Garoppolo in, is in this Teddy Bridgewater bracket, where you have to have a perfect defense around him, a perfect offensive line, elite weapons. We saw it in Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, even Kendrick Bourne, Mostert, obviously. You have to have these elite weapons around him to succeed. He's not going to put the team on his back and win it. And we saw it when he came up short in the Super Bowl, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the issue I run into. I know you think more highly of him, although we are complete Trey Lance fanboys.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how I feel on it is, hey, at this point, the reason Jimmy's starting, kind of bring it full circle and to quit my rambling and all the junk I'm talking. Jimmy's going to do what Kyle wants him to do, and he's going to do it at the point that's acceptable.
Mm-hmm.
The way I would relate it is you're a car salesman who's on a draw. And if any of our viewers or you aren't familiar with it, a draw is where you're given a certain amount of money. And if you don't sell that amount of money a week, you owe it back to the company you work for. So if you work at a car dealership, your draw is $500 a week. Your sales don't equal $500 a week. Well, you owe that money back to the dealership. Kyle is asking Jimmy to sell to his draw. He's asking him to be at the level he is, right? Trey is that superstar salesman. He's that superstar guy who says, screw the draw. I'm going to go out. I'm going to make a good living, right? Jimmy's the guy who says, hey, I'm content with that draw I'm getting. Let me just sell to that level, right? And he's comfortable with that. He's like that employee who's been there for years. He's comfortable with the manager. He's comfortable with ownership, like you would be in that car dealership scenario. He's comfortable with Kyle. He's comfortable with Jed York. He's comfortable with all these guys. He's been in the system for so long. He's dependable. You don't want to take that risk, right? So I think that's why you're seeing him start week one, especially like you said. We'll obviously get into it later with the schedule. The way that schedule sets up, even though those two opening week games at Detroit, at Philly seem enticing. You've got at home versus Green Bay, at home versus Seattle, on the road against Arizona. Those are three NFC teams who are competing with you for the playoffs, two of which are competing for your division. Do you want to put that on that superstar potential salesman, or do you want to put it on the guy who's just going to tread water and kind of keep you afloat?
Yeah.
I think that's why
what you mean. No, I don't think Garoppolo's a guy who's going to ever carry you really anywhere successful. But I think he's an above average guy, and he's good on third downs. And in a redo, he missed one throw, but ultimately they relied on the run game to get there and the defense to get there. We know it. I don't think he's a guy who's going to carry you anywhere. He's a guy that can come with you and won't mess it up, hopefully, if he doesn't throw a pick. But he can mess it up.
And hey, that's the thing. And this is something for our viewers, our viewer, that you and I have talked about ad nauseum. Your championship window, not to digress, but we will anyway. Your championship window is not huge.
No.
You think about Tom Brady. You and I talked about this the other day. Tom Brady, 3 of his first championships were within his first few years before his first major contract extension hit.
Yep.
And he went nearly 10 years without winning one.
Yep.
Really, the window for a superstar quarterback to win NFL championship to win the Super Bowl is really under his rookie contract in the perfect scenario.
Time.
It's under the rookie contract, like you said. It's the best time when he's got a superstar team around him. He's under that rookie scale where you can have guys like Kittle, Mostert, Ayuk, Debo, the offensive line, the defense built around him. And to be frank with you, after this window, it's going to be a while. It always is. There's never been a dominant quarterback for 10 or 15 years.
That's why Tom Brady had a huge drought, even in his championships.
Exactly. Arguably the best player of all time, even over Joe Montana. Probably one A and one B, right? There was a huge drought for him. It's generally your first 3 to 5 years, a gap, and then your last 3 to 5 years before you fall off a cliff. That's your window. The window's not big. That's why we, as the viewer, to try to get to understand, we don't hate Jimmy. There's things that irritate him, or that irritate us about him, rather. We don't hate him as a guy. He's a fine quarterback.
Yeah.
But this is a championship team that needs a championship quarterback. We feel there's a championship quarterback on the roster under a rookie contract. You have the ability to surround him with quality weapons, to surround him with a quality team. Take advantage of it. Because if you don't, that window is going to pass you by, and you're going to punch yourself over for the next 20 years, wondering what if.
That's how it works, man. It's true. Rookie contract is always the best chance, man, when you can have a whole roster against a guy who's meeting that ceiling.
It is. And I guess that kind of transitions into the next point I was wanting to make. Kind of looking at the schedule, I know we'll get to it later. Obviously, as negative as I sound, you sound more positive. But kind of, we do definitely, there's reports out everywhere. Jimmy's a starter. He's going to be the starter for at least the first few weeks. At what point, let's not say Trey's a starter. We'll get to that later. At what point do you think Trey gets sprinkled in? Not talking about, cleanup duty. Not talking about like, hey, we're blowing out Detroit, we're blowing out Philly. We'll get to the schedule, analyzing later. But at what point in the season do we see him legitimately coming into the game where this is where it's still a ball game? Where's Trey coming in at?
So everybody is pointing to the bye week. And so they have the big three there, Packers, Seahawks, Cardinals, and then bye week. And after that, you have the Colts at home. Yep. And right now, especially with their quarterback situation, that should be a very winnable game. After that, they're in Chicago, and then they're at home against Arizona. So everybody's pointing to that bye week where he would start against Indianapolis. I could see that. It makes sense. But I could also see, because Kyle Shanahan is this type of guy, I could see them going through the bye week, everybody expecting Trey to take over then. He still starts Garoppolo against Indianapolis, throws everybody off, and then starts him against Chicago and against, maybe I'd like to be against Justin Fields, but it might still be in the film. I was thinking rookie quarterback matchup, but
no. Do you think we see any? And I try to phrase this. You don't see it a ton in the NFL, but I think about I was at the Michigan game last Saturday. Our freshman phenom, JJ McCarthy, our Trey Lance, right? And it's kind of a, hate to compare it to Michigan. I'm going to get, if this podcast ever takes off, I'll get labels comparing everything to Michigan. But it's pretty, relatable team and scenario. Everybody hates us and everything, just like the 49ers. We've got our Jimmy Garoppolo and Cade McNamara. He's a game manager. He does what Josh Gaddis and Jim Harbaugh, the offensive guys and the head coach, what they want him to do. JJ McCarthy is this phenom, right? He flicks a 70-yard bomb opposite field that, hits the guy in stride. Everybody's clamoring for him to start. He's kind of like our Trey Lance. He came in when the game was still on the line. It might have been Western Michigan. Our equivalent is, the 49ers schedule. That Western Michigan is kind of like our Detroit, our Philly. Yeah. It's a game they should win. They should blow out. If it's a tight game, if they lose, we're in for a long season.
Yeah.
So let's assume Trey Lance, gets in when it matters. What point do you see that kind of freshman phenom, like we've seen in college football with Michigan and other schools, come in when the game matters? Where do you see Trey Lance coming in the schedule? Do you think it's week 1? At what point in the season do you think Trey Lance gets in when the game is still in doubt, and gets some meaningful snaps?
I wouldn't be surprised to see it in the first few weeks. Again, I think it's going to be majority Jimmy Garoppolo,
Yeah.
but I think against the Lions and the Eagles, especially, I think we'll see certain packages or maybe red zone stuff, zone read stuff. It'll be thrown in there, swap them out. I could see it in the first games big time where hopefully they have decent leads. But even against Green Bay, Seattle, and Arizona, don't be shocked if in those games they're in the red zone and suddenly Trey Lance trots out there, And then it really depends for me on how Garoppolo's playing. If that prediction well, not even necessarily a prediction, but that idea that I mentioned earlier that he has his career year because he's ticked off, he'll be in an interesting place there. Because do you ruin the flow of it and put a rookie in? It's so hard to tell. Like I say, everybody's pointing to that bye week, but honestly, I don't think it's something anybody can accurately predict as far as when he's going to take over.
No, it's not. And to be honest with you, if Jimmy has a career year, with all due respect, my friend, that's the worst case scenario. That is the absolute worst case scenario for this team. You've got a veteran quarterback who is having if he goes off, similar, let's say even a notch above what we saw in 2019, you're going to lose the locker room if you pick Trey Lance over him. Not even this year, the offseason. These players don't give a crap about what the team gave up to get Trey Lance. What they're concerned about is who their quarterback is. So the worst case scenario, as much as 49ers fans, you and I included, want to hear it, is if Jimmy Garoppolo has a great year. Because what you've done is created a quarterback controversy where you've split the locker room. And we're not talking splitting it offense and defense. We're talking about splitting it where the players are Jimmy guys or Trey guys.
Yeah.
And you're going to throw your season away, not only this year, but next year and the years to come. If Jimmy goes off, you try to flip him or whatever, the team feels like you traded away their guy. Yep. That's not a great scenario. The best scenario that you can have, and you and I have talked about this too, is maybe not a 50-50 split, but especially this week in Detroit, they've got, especially having friends and family that are diehard Lions fans and, buddies of mine, when I used to cover college football, cover the NFL, guys that I know that write, for Lions, different websites and blogs and things, they're not that high in the Lions for obvious reasons. Their first round pick from last year, Jeff Okudah, he's not anything that they could hope for. They've got a lot of issues. Could that be a game that you see Trey Lance sprinkle in maybe, 60-40 reps, 60 going to Jimmy, 40 going to Trey? You got to get Trey some work at some point this season. If you wait too long, you've got Green Bay at home, you've got Seattle at home, you're on the road to Arizona. The bye week, if you've got a quarterback controversy, that's the worst time that bye week can hit. You've got to have some kind of plan for how you're going to work Trey in. Are we going to start him off splitting reps with Jimmy, in Detroit, in Philadelphia, so he's comfortable when we're playing Green Bay and Seattle at home?
Very true.
Are we going to have packages for him in Detroit and Philly, and then at home versus Green Bay and Seattle, and then on the road in Arizona? You've got to have some kind of definitive plan, which you can't do in the worst case scenario. I hate to keep talking about it, but the worst case scenario you can have is to give the keys to Jimmy 100%, have 2 or 3 packages a game for Trey because he's your number 3 pick, and Jimmy goes off.
Yeah.
Because at that point, there's no point you can transition to Trey. Not only will you lose the fan base, you're going to lose the locker room, and you're going to lose any hopes of a Super Bowl. You just can't do that. So you've got to have a definitive plan for how the season is going to go, and it's got to be a definitive plan out the gate. Because if not, it's going to be awkward, it's going to be rough, and you're going to really risk not only losing the fan base, you're going to really risk losing the locker room. and risking any chance of winning a Super Bowl, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, that's true. And you think too that if Garoppolo's getting all the time because he's playing well, what Trey Lance is missing is reps. That's what he needs in order to develop. But let's go ahead and then we spent a lot of time on quarterback talk. Let's go ahead and get into the season stuff, man. Yeah, yeah, that's true. We could talk forever, man. But but let's go ahead and get in these season predictions, and we'll start with Week 1. I know before the podcast, you asked me when I first had them losing, and we disagreed on this. Yeah. So I'm excited to see. We haven't revealed that to each other, so I'm excited to see that. But Week 1. Again, for us, is in 2 days here, or really about a day and a half. But in Detroit, a team that most people are expecting to finish bottom 2, bottom 3. But hey, bad teams don't know they're bad until they start losing games. They're going to go out there and play hard. Right. What do you think?
That's a win, and that's a going away win. You and I have talked about this off camera, off audio, off podcast, off platform. Detroit is a team, you're going to see a ton of national writers pen them as a potential 0-17 team. Not going to happen. The only 2 teams that have gone winless, the Lions and the Browns, were teams that people pegged as potential surprises. The Lions went 4-0 the year they went 0-16. The Browns were pegged as maybe a surprise in the AFC North under Hugh Jackson. They were a disaster. The Lions are not a disaster. They're just not talented. It seems by all accounts they've got a pretty good head coach in Dan Campbell. He's a guy players want to fight for, unlike Matt Patricia last year.
And they've built their team from the trenches on both sides of the ball.
They've built their team in the trenches. That's a heck of a point. Yep. They've built their team in the trenches, and they're trying to build a culture and identity. Yep. These teams that have gone winless, they don't have a culture. They don't have an identity. No. There's a reason why. Yeah, exactly. They were dysfunctional. That's the reason after they went 0-16 with Dan Orlovsky at quarterback, the fraud ESPN analyst, they drafted Matt Stafford the next year, number 1 overall. That's the same reason the Browns went out and were able to get Baker Mayfield number 1 overall the next year. And it was because they were disasters. The Lions are not a disaster. They're just not talented enough. It looks like they've got their head on straight finally. So it's not going to be a walk in the park. Obviously, Jared Goff he's that kind of mold, not to bring it back to the quarterback guy, but he's in the mold of a Jimmy Garoppolo, Eddie Bridgewater kind of guy. He's going to do what you want him to do. He's not going to go out and put the team on his back and win the game. Unfortunately, Detroit, unlike what Denver has even, unlike what obviously the Niners have, they don't have enough for Jared Goff to single-handedly deliver a win. Or even trust his team to deliver a win.
And the 49ers are familiar with Jared Goff, too.
That's a great thing. They're very familiar with Jared Goff. It's very funny. I'll say this, not to cut you off. There's a reporter I've always kept up with, Nick Baumgartner. He's a reporter for The Athletic. He covers Michigan State, and the Lions for The Athletic. And it's funny, they're talking about watching practice. Yeah. There's one play in particular where there was Amon-Ra St. Brown coming across the middle, and Detroit's is it Tyrell Williams? Is that correct? Yeah. So Tyrell Williams going deep. Tyrell Williams had his guy by 3 steps, was wide open. Amon-Ra St. Brown had his guy, the rookie wide receiver, although he's great. I think he's going to be a stud wide receiver out of USC, rookie guy. Only had his guy by about a step and a half. So it was a pretty tight coverage across the middle. Instead of taking the deep shot, Jared Goff checked it down. Yeah. And that's what you're missing in Stafford. And that's the reason this is going to be a win. So, don't really have a score prediction, but it should be a going away win for the 49ers. And if it's not, it might be some cause for concern for the season going forward. But it should be a great going away win and still some confidence in the team going forward. How do you feel about it, Steve?
I got 2 hot takes for you.
All right, go for it. I'm ready.
Nick Bosa has 2 sacks. George Kittle has over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, both of those are completely possible.
Detroit has struggled covering tight ends like the last couple of years, and I don't think they've done anything to really change that fact as far as personnel on their roster. I don't think they have anybody who can touch George Kittle. I think this is going to be the George Kittle game.
Yeah. That's a perfect point. One thing we'll mention. So obviously, just to clarify, both have it is a pretty handled win.
Yeah.
I guess the terminology.
Yeah, I could see 34-17. That's what I'm going to go with.
Yeah, and I think tentatively hate to do a score prediction, but 42.
They're never
14,
right.
40. Yeah, they're never right. It'll be a nail biter. It'll be Michigan App State. It could be 42-17. But it should be a going away game. There's no reason this thing should be close. Unless we're winding down the clock from the jump of the second half, this thing shouldn't be close. And like you said, could completely see them shredding not only with George Kittle but with everything else on offense. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is, honestly. This is one game. If you're talking about a ticked off Jimmy Garoppolo, this could be a game that he goes off. Lions don't have any kind of secondary at all. They are rebuilding. People forget, Lions were a playoff team. Before they were borderline wild card team until they hired Matt Patricia. They were supposed to hire Patricia to take the leap. Turned out that they took a nosedive. So any talent that they had before, this isn't your mama's Detroit Lions, Barry Sanders Megatron team. This is not a talented team. So this should be a going away win.
All right. Very true. I agree. No, I think it'll be a handed win. Let's check out the rest of these games, man, and come up with a record prediction. We'll go game by game. We'll run through it. We won't dive deep like that in every game, but we'll run through it. All right. So I'm going to write this down as we go. All right. At Lions, we both have a win.
Yes.
At Eagles,
win. When Jalen Hurts is not enough for them to pull out the upset. Too many issues in Philadelphia. Similar to Detroit. Should be going away win.
Yeah, they're missing too. All right. At home against Green Bay.
I've got them down as a win. And obviously not to dive too deep. You've always got to be careful with Devontae Adams and Aaron Rodgers and Aaron Jones. That's a big 3-on offense, man. But going off based on what we've seen in the past, the NFC Championship games over the years, even through the regular season, if you can get Green Bay at home in Levi Stadium, it's a win. And until Green Bay proves otherwise, I'm going to count it as a win. So we'll say a close game, but a win. A win against Green Bay.
Totally agree. At home against Seattle.
Got them as a win. You and I have talked about this ad nauseum. We'll get about, we'll maybe touch on this a little bit later when we get into the rest of the NFL, maybe division records and these things. But one of these years, Seattle is going to take a nosedive. Whether that happens this year or not, I don't know. But the lack of talent on the offensive line, the lack of depth on defense, it's going to catch up with them sooner or later. So got that as a win as well. Just don't know how much they have to be able to keep up with what the Niners got on defense. What the problems the Niners offense can create, no matter who the quarterback is on offense.
Yeah, it's true. And I was about to say we're a quarter of the way through, but I forgot we have 17 games now.
Have a 17 game.
In Arizona.
I've got this as a loss.
Triggered. I'm triggered. I knew it.
I figured you were. I knew we had different records. And the reason why, Niners are a more talented team. Don't get that mistaken. The issue is you're playing really on your first no insult to Detroit Lions or potential Philadelphia Eagles fans who may have stumbled across here because of the YouTube algorithm. But this is your first true road game in a true road environment. With a team that has something to fight for. Philly and Detroit fans go nuts, but they know where they're going, and it's not outside the top 5. We'll be honest. Arizona fans feel like they have something to fight for this year. They feel like they should be playoff contenders, and they're going to come out. The fans are going to be nuts. It's going to be the first Niners real road game in in 2 years almost since the COVID situation. You're playing on the road. It's going to be a good test for Garoppolo or Lance, depending on who's at quarterback. I like their weapons. And really, it's kind of a trap game because you're coming off a high. We both got them projected to beat Green Bay and Seattle. Those are two of the biggest games of the year back to back, really determining the rest of the year. It's kind of a trap game. It's kind of a trap game, excuse me, especially right before the bye week. Kind of maybe looking ahead, looking to that week of rest. I've got it as a close loss.
I think you might be right, but I just can't admit that they'll lose the Cardinals until I see it. So
No,
right.
yeah, I completely agree. I could see this close win or close loss, but right now I've got them as a close loss.
That's totally understandable. All right, then we have the bye week. Hopefully, they don't take any losses there. Following week, at home against Indianapolis.
I've got that as a win.
Me too.
Carson Wentz, great dude, good guy you'd want to have a beer with and sit around a fire, have some s'mores or whatever, talk about life, but not a guy who's gonna come into Levi Stadium when that place is rocking and pull off an upset. Obviously we love Defoe, love the force, but
man, love that guy.
Both Jonathan Taylor guys. Is Paris Campbell gonna be enough? To
Michael Pittman, baby.
Michael Pittman, there you go. That's the guy I was thinking of. Are Michael Pittman and Paris Campbell enough to pull off an upset in Levi Stadium? I don't think so. I've got that. It's probably a double-digit win. You? What do you?
No, yeah, I could see it. Maybe double-digit, but I could see between 7 and 10 points. Yeah, but I think they win.
That's about where I've got them.
Yeah, totally agree. All right.
Just don't think enough.
No, I agree. All right, in Chicago.
Got that as a win.
Me too.
Simply put, not high on Justin Fields.
I know.
We talked about this, and I'll preface this. It is not an Ohio State thing. This has nothing to do with Ohio State. There's just something off about Justin Fields, and me and you have tried to come to this conclusion. I feel like I've cracked the code in his processing ability. It really seems like he depends on a strong offensive coordinator, play caller, to determine where he goes with the ball when he is relied on to make these things, as you will see in NFL, make these decisions. I don't know if it's going to translate. And either way, let's say it's him. I would imagine we're playing Justin Fields in Chicago.
Who knows?
But if it's Andy Dalton, then I feel even better about it. Either way, I don't feel great for Chicago fans trotting out a rookie quarterback who has legitimate issues under pressure with the defensive line and defense that we have. And I don't feel great for them trotting out Andy Dalton, trying to pull off a win.
I think their offensive line is going to be overwhelmed despite either way, whoever plays quarterback. But
yeah. Yep. No, I completely agree, man. Allen Robinson, again, that dude deserves to be on a legit team.
Yeah, hey, that's my guy. I agree. All right, next week, at home against the Cardinals.
Got this as a win.
Thank God.
Obviously building. Yeah, obviously rebounding against, Indianapolis, Chicago, building on that. Beating Arizona at home. Arizona's a team they should win. The only reason I have them losing earlier in the year is it's a trap game.
I understand.
They're a talented enough team to pull off a win. Unless the 49ers, get a case of Ebola, I don't think they're losing this.
Me neither. I got it as a win too.
If you're trotting into Levi Stadium, I don't think you're pulling this game off.
All right, next game at home against the Rams. I have my winning streak coming to an end here.
Oh, God. All right, you go first. I want to hear what you got to say. Why are they losing to the Rams in Week 10? At home.
Essentially, we'll see later, but I think these teams are going to split in a weird way. And obviously, I just gave it away that I think they're going to win in Los Angeles to end the season. But essentially, after a really hot start, similar to the 2019 season, I think somebody's going to catch them off guard, and I could totally see it being a healthy Rams. We've talked about their lack of depth, that if they have any injuries, they're donezo.
Yeah.
But I just think if somebody's going to catch them off guard, and I think it's going to be the Rams here.
Yeah, and I don't want to give away any spoilers the rest of my year. I also have them splitting the series, and we'll get to that in a little
Oh,
bit.
well, there you
Um,
go.
but yeah, I mean, you gave it away too, but yeah, I've got it as a win. Until the Rams come into Levi Stadium when both teams are healthy
Yeah,
and pull off and you talked about this the other day. Rams have some legitimate concerns with depth, and we're not just talking about running backs. We're not just talking about Cam Akers and Daryl Henderson and these other guys. They've got some legit concerns at linebacker,
yeah.
cornerback, defensive line. Obviously, they brought in Stafford, and that's great, but buying players only gets you so far. Eventually, you got
They're
to
not a
build
deep
depth.
team.
They're not a deep team, and
Nope.
you're talking about your first matchup with them. Over halfway through the year, most of your injuries tend to come between that. Once you get through the first 4 games, really through that first quarter of the year, that first third, it's when your injuries really start hitting. It's when those bumps and bruises build up, and you've already passed the bye week for the Niners. They've got 1, 2, 3 weeks to get healthy. Leading into the Rams week, it's 4 weeks of full weeks getting healthy. Leading into that game, they should be ready to rock and roll. 3 easy tests coming up to that. I've got it as a win, just simply because, let's just say all the Rams are healthy. The subs the Niners are going to bring in on defense, it's wave after wave after wave on the defensive line. Linebackers, granted, they stay healthy. Defensive backfield, they tread water. The offense, barring any unforeseen season-ending injuries, that's enough in my mind to pull off the win.
Oh yeah, I see where you're coming from, man. Like I say, I think they're gonna split. I just have it
Sure.
split in a weird way. We've already,
Sure.
I think we're 40 minutes in, so let's run through these a little quicker.
All right.
And no problem. Nobody's listening anyways.
That's all right, man. This is
All right.
this nice conversation on Zoom, baby.
That's right. In Jacksonville.
Got that as a win. Trevor Lawrence is a fraud. Urban Meyer is even worse, and this should be a lot.
Sweet.
If you think this is my short rant, and I've been
Sure.
ranting for 40 minutes. What this is, people, people other than our wives and family and friends who are listening to this, if you just happen to stumble across us, I'm sorry. And you've made it this far, I'm even more sorry, more apologetic. What this is a platform for Steve to listen to my rants because this is what he enjoys. This is what I enjoy doing. Urban Meyer is a fraud of a coach. In college, he was buying players. This is well documented. Read any message board and Reddit thread. I'm not a conspiracy guy, although 9/11 was an inside job. He was paying players. He was buying his team essentially at Ohio State, at Florida. He screwed Texas and thinking that they had him as a head coach to go to Jacksonville. And now, spoiler alert, after bringing in Tim Tebow and that whole thing not working out, headline we read is players think Urban Meyer has too much of a college system to succeed in the NFL. Shocker. Never thought that was going to come. Well, guess what it did? Urban Meyer, again, fraud of coach. Any superstardom that Trevor Lawrence would have had, will unfortunately be ruined by Jacksonville. And if this isn't a 50-3 game, I'm going to be severely disappointed because this should be a walk in the park.
Spoken like a true Michigan fan. All right, let's move on.
Well, wait. We didn't get your prediction, Steve. How do you feel about the 49ers going in Jacksonville? You think they pull off the upset over the Jaguars and the GOAT Urban Meyer? You think they pull it off?
I have it as an L. I'm just kidding.
Great. Good deal. Travis Etienne comes back from ACL injury and carries them to victory. Good deal.
Yep, 100 receiving yards.
Great. Love to see it.
At home against Minnesota.
Win.
In Seattle.
Got that as a loss. Second
too.
loss of the season I've got for him. Yeah, glad we finally agreed on something other than Urban Meyer being a fraud. It's a tough place to play, obviously. That goes without saying. That place is going to be rocking. At that point, I've got him on being, not counting the bye week, coming off that loss to Arizona back in week 5. They're on a 6-game winning streak. Eventually, that's got to come to an end. There's not a better time for it, too, than in a hostile environment. Probably going to be a night game. Either Sunday night or Monday Night Football. Place is going to be rocking. Got that as a loss.
Yep, me too. But in Seattle's tough, man. All right, then we go to Cincinnati.
Should be a win.
Yep.
Joe Burrow, that cripple, love him to death.
He's
But
going to be
he
scared
might walk
against
out.
Nick Bosa.
Yeah, no. Yep, he might walk out of there on a life alert, falling and I can't get up. I've been sacked and I can't get up. Is going to be his issue that game, unfortunately, because they drafted Jamar Chase over any help for him. As you and I have talked about it nauseum. But yeah, that should be a going away win, just simply because there's no way in heck you're stopping Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, Fred Warner, and these guys with the Band-Aid triple antibiotic ointment, filler that the Cincinnati Bengals have assembled as an offensive line.
Very, very true. I totally agree. They're going to be overwhelmed. At home against Atlanta.
Should be a win. Matt Ryan's over the cliff. Mike Davis is not a number one running back. Calvin Davis is legit, though, and so is Kyle Pitts, but they don't have anything else outside of those guys.
Did you say Calvin Davis?
I said Calvin. I think I did. I meant to say Matt Ryan, Mike Davis are not legit guys.
Calvin Ridley
Matt
and Kyle Pitts are.
Mike Davis is not a legit number one running back. Calvin Ridley and Kyle Pitts are legit options, and that's all Atlanta's got at any point of the team.
I'm very curious, although in Tennessee.
I've got that as a loss. You're going.
Yeah, I do too.
So what you've done is you've gone basically from a bunch of either dome stadiums or fairly warm environments to Nashville, which people underrate in the fall. It's going to be a pretty cold game. It's projected to be a Thursday. It's a Thursday night game. It's not projected to be. It is going to be a Thursday night game. I'm about a Thursday night game in Nashville, elevated area. It's going to be pretty cold. It's going to be a good test for, God forbid, Jimmy or Trey, whoever it is. AJ Brown, Derrick Henry,
Julio
Jones, Ryan Tannehill. It's just too much. I've got that as a tight loss.
Yeah, me too. At home against Houston.
Unless Deshaun Watson starts walking on water, that's a win.
And because at the Rams. Oh, sorry.
That's a problem. No, you're good. I was just going to rant about Deshaun Watson being a criminal. At the Rams, got it as a loss. Obviously, we talked about this earlier, but finishing out the year, kind of looking ahead maybe. At this point, we'll get to it in a minute. Should have the division locked up, but got that as a loss. Just kind of looking ahead of the playoffs. Should have everything locked up, and Rams are going to have something to fight for.
Very interesting. Before we got on here, I said they were going 13. I said they were going 13-4. Looking at this, I only have 3 losses written down here.
You got them at 14-3. Wow.
But I don't believe it.
I tell you what, Stephen Ellis, you are a true unbiased fan. If you had them anything less than 17-0, I'd be disappointed. So I'm very proud of your unbiasedness.
They're going to drop one that I don't have written down here. That's just how it goes. But
so I don't think we touched on. Do you have Tennessee as a win or a loss in Week 16?
I also had them as a loss. Yes.
Okay.
My losses were
go ahead.
At home against the Rams, in Seattle, and in Tennessee.
Gotcha. So I've got at Arizona, and then at Seattle, at Tennessee, and then at the Rams. So I think that's the one I've got on you is them splitting Arizona, and you've got them sweeping Arizona.
Yeah, I want them to sweep Arizona. We'll see. I'll tell you what, man, we are 47 minutes in. We were going to talk about division winners and Super Bowl matchups, but what do you say we get to that next week?
Hey, man, just whatever you want to do, man. This is your movie, and I'm just starring in it. So I'll be I'll be the Matthew McConaughey to your Tommy Lee Jones.
I love it. Well, for anybody listening, if you are, that'll be your motivational list listening next week, that you can hear our predictions for division winners and Super Bowl. All right, I like it. We went through and I found out that I'm a little more biased than I even thought. I thought I was biased, so that was interesting to see. 14-3 Niners. Easy money.
Easy money.
All right, man. Well, yeah, we spent more time than we anticipated, but we had a lot of fun doing it, and we'll keep it up. And next week we'll go over that, the win against the Lions, previewing the Eagles, and then our division winners and Super Bowl pick. We'll get into all that. But before we end this thing, give me your fact of the week, Josh.
Sounds good, Steve. I've been looking forward to this one. Something that really piqued my attention, really was percolating with me. The most streamed Spotify single is Harry Styles' song, his hit single "Girl Crush." And just as a reminder, he's a complete fraud, much like Urban Meyer, really riding the coattails of his band One Direction. Really, he's one of those guys, unlike Harry Potter, who is the most successful Harry I can think of. You've had a lot of other successful artists pass over day by day for this fraud. So just really a disappointment to find out that Harry Styles' song "Girl Crush" was the #1 single on Spotify.
Life is often disappointing.
It sure is. And you know what? In the words of a great man, that's what makes you beautiful.
Very good. I love it. One more quote to end the show, and we'll see you guys after this. But Abraham Lincoln once said, "If you are a racist, I will attack you with the North." Goodbye, everyone. We really enjoyed it. We'll be back. 49-Yard Dash Podcast on your San Francisco 49ers. I'm Steven. That's Josh. Peace out, guys.